And we are live.
Hello.
We're here again.
We are live at the Paramount Theatre again. It's been a little bit now since the film festival, but we're back at the Paramount Theatre because we are celebrating the 70th birthday / anniversary of this place. We're going to be chatting with a few different guests today. First up,
Oh, I see here.
we have
Oh, I see what I'm doing.
Hi, I'm Terry Ann. Terry Ann Wilson.
Terry Ann Wilson, thank you for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about how you are connected to the Paramount here.
Well, I've been coming here for many years. I saw my first film roughly over there, a few seats. It was Star Wars, and it was the introduction of my kind of princess, I think.
Oh, that
She was the princess I needed, somebody that could find her
charge.
way around, take charge.
Yeah.
You
Tell
give
the
off Leia vibes.
Oh, that's a
yeah.
compliment, Carrie. Yeah, I think that was really exciting. I remember as a little girl because, mostly you get handed dolls that are very beautiful and maybe dressed in a white dress too, but that was just something altogether different and
Don't wield
exciting.
the blaster very often.
Yeah, well, the blaster was the thing, and in the garbage thing, and telling those boys what's what. I had older brothers, so that was really, I was like, oh, things can be different.
Was that the movie that really made you fall in love with film in general?
I think that I just fell in love with film over time. I think it has just been something really important to me, and then something really important to somebody that was important to me. And I think that when those two things happen, it's kind of like a match that's meant to be. And I grew up around film because my dad was a passionate lover of film, and he believed in bringing film to everyone. Films are for everyone, and he loved gatherings. Mm-hmm. And so what is a film being screened in a public theater but a gathering and a meeting of minds? And he instilled in me, his name was Doug, and he, from the time he was even a really young man living in North Bend, he used to run down, he'd made relationships with the people that ran the theaters, and he would run down and pick up a film reel when the theater was done with it, and he'd crack a deal with them if they had enough time before they had to ship it back out or back to the distributor or down to its next leg, which was usually San Francisco, actually. Really? Or Seattle, yeah. And so he would get those film reels and run down, pick them up, and then that night he would screen them in North Bend.
What time?
Tiny little town.
This? The 60s, 70s?
Yeah, like the 50s, the 50s, 60s. My dad was born, post-war baby. Grew up in the Fraser Canyon. Grew up happy. Grew up having in fact, my dad had many adventures, and so films like Stand By Me, for example. Especially that scene with when they're running on the train trestle and trying to outrun the train. That's like autobiographical stuff for my dad. Like that's a whole other family story. But yeah, he grew up in the canyon, playing and exploring and fishing, and what he always remembered the most was getting to see the films. And before him, somebody else had brought films into the community. That person, I don't know who they were, but he had told me about those stories. And when he came to Kamloops, he and a couple other people decided that they were going to found a society.
And that was the
KFS was born. Yeah.
What year was the KFS born?
Ooh, I'm not Colleen Staten is the best one to identify that. But we just, if the people that are possibly tuning into this or yourselves are better at math, yes, my camera and editing work is always plagued by a math thing that I've always worked through. But yeah, I think we celebrated as a society, we celebrated 50 years last year.
Okay.
So go minus back. So
roughly 20 years after the Paramount was born, the Film Society was born.
No, the Film Society moved around a lot. And so they were always trying to find their locations. And, sometimes the location, like Dad told me, sometimes the location was a classroom at Caribou College.
Oh, really?
Really?
And I say Caribou College specifically because that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And there was one room. And then my next memory of a movie here at the Paramount would have been Grease.
Cool.
Which and then another another chip on the table of like, I love movies. This is amazing. What am I seeing? What is this?
Those are both classics too.
Yeah. And I still remember my mom and my dad trying to distract me during the makeout scene at the drive-in.
How did they try to distract you?
Oh, are you having a good time? Like this kind of stuff, offering me sweets, and I'm suddenly, they're handing me candy, they're handing me popcorn. But I can still remember, like, why was that boy's foot hanging out of the car? And then suddenly I'm looking at candy and popcorn. So they always like they gave me early primers in why we need to manage media for kids, which is like really interesting. But they also exposed me to a lot of film, and Dad exposed me to world cinema from the time I was very young. And I remember Cinema Paradiso specifically. And so when I had the honor of getting to pick themes for the murals, I got to pick Cinema Paradiso.
That's so cool.
And his best friend, Brian Mitchell, who was one of the founders, he picked Strictly Ballroom, because the KFS hit hard times at one point, and Strictly Ballroom came out, and they thought the KFS wasn't going to make it. And then they screened Strictly Ballroom, and it saved the KFS because everybody came to see it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ashamed to say I don't know what that is. I've never seen
Okay,
Is
so
that Baz Luhrmann?
here's the problem with talking to me about movies is when you leave, I give you homework.
it. Good. This homework I will do.
But I do remember seeing Grease here at the Paramount, and I also remember seeing it later at the drive-in. And I've been handed this. I love getting handed old junk because
So do I.
Dad and I he held on to those projectors for years for the community. Like he had a whole bunch of projectors. And now those ended up now with the KFS. He was finally able to give them back to the KFS at one point, but he was the projectionist for the KFS for many years, right? So he had projectors, and he would take, when the projectors started to get kind of rare or hard to find, he would start taking pieces of other ones to keep the ones he needed working. And so in the end, he ended up with a bunch of those. But
wow,
over
the oldest projector he has?
Oh, he probably, well, no, they're all handed over to the KFS. So the KFS has them all now, but there would be some that date back to like the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have, I don't know, it just depends. Like you see this old stuff sometimes kicking around, and people don't necessarily know what it is anymore. Like if you went to a bric-a-brac sale or something and this was sitting there, people would be like, oh, is that a radio or a...
It looks like a microphone that like Marilyn Monroe would speak into. That's
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
But it's a larger one.
But yeah, you can see where it would have hung
And it would have hung on your car.
on the window.
For people who've never been to a drive-through or like have no idea of this concept, you would drive. It was like sort of a big parking lot. You'd park your car, and then there'd be a big screen, and then at each sort of stall there'd be one of these speakers hanging, and you'd pick it up, and it would hang on your door, essentially, or your window.
And then your radio station, right? Is a certain radio station that you'd have to
No,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
well, sometimes, but originally it was just through the speaker, wasn't it?
Well, you would tune in. You would plug in.
That
Yeah.
in the 90s.
That was the new thing.
Yeah.
That was the new thing.
I'm young.
Yes, exactly.
That's when they
You don't know how
started.
we used to do it old
well,
school.
these were a bit of a target for vandalism too, right? Because if you
guess,
showed
yeah.
up in the night and nobody was there, like you could put the projector in a big lock facility, but these would all be sitting out on their hangers, and it didn't take much to, but they would get damaged, and the sound was notoriously poor because, as you can see, this is there's lots there to go wrong through the weather and the cold and the
Can't
this
even get
and
stereo out of that. It's one speaker.
yeah. So
That's another thing. Like,
that's when the
what
radios
if you
came in.
go to- I guess drive-ins wouldn't be open in the winter.
Not necessarily, but it depends on what climate and where you
True,
were, and
true.
because you could. I remember going to the drive-in when it was very miserable out, and you put it on and you just rolled the window up, so then the speaker would just be up higher, right?
Right, yeah.
Because it's hanging off the top of the window like this. So if you rolled the window, I can remember my dad one night when it was really windy and it was cold, and he rolled the window up, and it was cozy, and we were cozy in the car watching the movie. But when you could get it through the radio. I actually remember asking, what about the speaker? We don't need the speaker anymore. Now we use the radio.
Big technological jump.
Oh, that was a big jump, right? And that's the one thing you can always count on with movies as an invention. Is like, I used to teach film studies at the post-secondary level, and I loved teaching film studies, and I loved the wonder that people would have for it, and the curiosity that it would elicit. And everybody has stories about movies or how they've impacted them, and there's something really that we lose and can never get back when all we do is sit at home and watch stuff through the screen. Now we have become like the Lady of Shalott, and we're just looking into a hand mirror, reflecting back to us inside of the echo chamber of our own propensity for confirmation bias, and I'm only going to agree with what I think, and you get yourself. I'm not slagging that. It feels great. It's convenient. It's available. It's probably more affordable for a lot of people, and accessible for mothers and people that are stuck at home for mobility things. But if that isn't the case, and even if it is, we owe it to ourselves as communities to get out and screen films in public together so that we can talk about these things and ponder these things together and have these shared experiences, because movies make they make really big emotional impacts and really big life impacts, and they help build empathy and they help build compassion and they share perspectives. And sometimes if we exist in that little echo chamber of our own, we don't get to visit that anymore. And yeah.
What do you think of old movies versus movies made today? What are your thoughts in general?
One of my thoughts is it's really important to watch old films through a filter of awareness.
Yeah.
Because
it's the only way.
Things have been politically incorrect over time and changed in that way? Or?
There are whole institutions, well-respected film schools and institutions that will not cover D.W. Griffith. And,
Birth of a Nation is
Birth of a Nation is horrifying.
What are you talking about?
Well,
it's an early silent film about... was it just during and after the Civil War? It's been a while since I've seen it now.
It's a film that is a perspective on the American Civil War. But
and it's not flattering to black people, to slaves of that era. There's frequently scenes that are portraying slaves as not wanting to be freed, begging their slave owners to, because they don't know what they'll do otherwise, and it's propaganda in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Right?
It is, and but to me, it's like Metropolis. I mean, that's why we need to see these films and we need to talk about them, because how else can people watch that film now? And they're horrified. They're like, this was the collective consciousness. It's like, yeah, this is why these conversations are important.
Yeah, exactly.
So to eliminate these films, to say, it's like, yeah, they are racist, so let's watch them and talk about why. And let's use them as vehicles to further those discussions. Why is this important that we're having this conversation? Why is it important that we now have a full copy of Metropolis? Why is it important to watch a film like Metropolis and then talk about how that was Joseph Goebbels' favorite film and how we ended up in that situation during... Do you know what I mean? Because film is extraordinarily powerful. This medium is extraordinarily powerful, and we know this because of the early Russian expressionist experiments that people did with montage. It's like take a famous actor with a straight line look on their face and juxtapose that shot against a bowl of soup and then ask the audience what that man is thinking.
Whoa.
What's he going to say? I'm hungry. No, he's just a guy that was basically waiting in front of a camera with a flat look on their face, flat affect, no emotion, no nothing. But because you juxtapose that shot now against a little girl holding a dolly, oh, look at how he gazes at his lovely little girl. He loves her so much. No, it's the same shot from the soup. You just juxtaposed it against that. Okay,
and then you add like different kinds of music.
Yeah.
And that can completely change the way a scene, lighting. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because you can watch silent films, and silent films, very few people turn the volume off and ever watch a movie, but it's an amazing exercise. Pick any film. A film like Titanic, for example. Turn it off. Just watch the images and just turn it off and then watch it again with the sound on, with a really good sound system. Pick a scene from it, even the sinking of the ship, for example.
I think sometimes in certain films, like, maybe I won't say it, like Transformers, movies like that, it's just too much for me. It's just like bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, well,
it's like so much noise and
that's a
things
style.
to see. It's a little much for me, and it's not enjoyable. I prefer simplicity and more realism in a way.
And exploring older films too gives you that opportunity. Like for some people that are accustomed now to that Brockheimer like big ticket smash cuts and all of that, a lot of films are being shot like video games now. Because if you watch movies, modern films now, you can almost see the lines, the trajectories, and you can see, oh, that connects to a fair ride that's coming. That's going to be an attraction.
Right.
That scene is going to be a roller coaster in 5 years. That or less now. They're able to turn it around so fast. I mean, we used to have to wait a really long time to see the fair ride that would come out of, Jumanji or whatever. Now it's just like they already know what they're going to do. And the film gets shot for that.
Yeah,
and if you're into film, if you're really into film and you've been studying film for a really long time and you see the patterns grow, you can sit and know, oh, that's an affiliation. I can see that affiliation there, and I can see that plan there. And what that does is it starts to strip away from the human connection we have to the film because it's commoditized now. It's like it's about something else. Sometimes when we watch those older films, we get to connect with story again because that's what it's about. This is about, why did somebody 25,000 years ago paint an 8-legged warthog on a cave wall? Why does that warthog have 8 legs? You can ask young filmmakers this question. I always ask young kids that I try to teach how to manage media so it doesn't manage them is ultimately my aim. But they love making movies. So for disenfranchised kids that are coming to their learning, sometimes it's like that's the work I do now, is like trying to encourage them to get excited about learning and storytelling through film because it's their orality now. That's what they understand. Yeah. But almost inevitably, eventually one of them will say, well, it's an animation. It's running. It's got 8 legs because they were trying to tell a story about a warthog in a great hunt that was running, and they chased it down and they killed it. And
it's almost like in a comic strip where you'd see like the blur motion on the legs. That's what it's trying to capture that sense of movement.
Yeah.
In a still picture.
Yeah, and we've been trying to tell motion stories forever, and that's the thing that's so interesting. Like today at our event, we've got Thaumatrope building over in the corner. It's like that was the first big, I don't want to say dates anymore because I'm murky and now there's the internet. Everybody can fact check. When was the exhibition? It was like 1898 or whatever when they had the Thaumatropes. It was so popular. To us, we're like, a little 7-year-old kid can make one now. But back then at the World Exhibition, this was like a persistence of vision toy that emerged and everyone was like, oh. And then there's, Edward Muybridge's horse, and suddenly that crazy bet. What was that bet? I always tell young people about that bet, and they can't believe that he bet $20,000 that he could prove that a horse at one point in its gait that it's running has all its hooves off of the ground, and he proved it, but it cost him $40,000 to do it because he had to buy so many stills camera to run the track and put the tripwires to the shutter, and then he got a jockey to run around. And you can YouTube it anyway, but a lot of people have put it on a loop now, so you don't really get a feel for the original. But I think somebody put one up that's just the original, and it's about 2.5 seconds long. That's one of the first motion pictures.
Wow!
I want to just really quickly get you back on the murals because it sounds like you're got some connection to those, and I've never personally known sort of how they came about.
Deshaun Magdalene was the first ED for once we got the Paramount under KFS was helping to keep it alive, the Paramount Theatre. Of course, the Fawcett's are the ones that were the life support behind the Paramount and the KFS, because if we don't have a place to screen our films, we don't exist. Our mandate is to bring films to the community, to help local filmmakers get their films screened and seen. And but when Deshaun first took over running the theater, he, while doing everything at the same time, was also trying to apply for grants, and he got this amazing grant that empowered him to engage artists to put the murals on the buildings. And I believe that we do deal with a lot of vandalism in the community, and there's various reasons for that, and people have various reasons for expression of their frustration, and sometimes they hit the Paramount, and we just wanted to do something that would deter that, because when you have something really beautiful, even the most angry, frustrated, disenfranchised individual doesn't want to be the one to wreck it.
Right.
Because they're like, well, I have a right to be angry right now, but I don't have to take it out on this, because maybe this, they enjoy it at some points too, right? So they leave it, and it's lovely. And and we really appreciate that as an organization when people recognize that the theater's for everybody to enjoy
has
it.
it then functioned
And
as
so
somewhat
it's
of a deterrent?
somewhat of a deterrent, but also as a way to engage these artists, but also to beautify. It's beautiful.
It
like
is,
it's
absolutely.
really special. Make the theater special. Deshaun was always wanting to make the theater special because it is special.
Yeah.
And when you give people things to find special, then they come. And I think that was one of my favorite meetings ever. He came and he said, look, we got this grant, and he says, we got these artists engaged, and you guys we're looking for ideas for the mural. And we all got to have an idea, and all our ideas are in the mural, and it's fantastic. Strictly
Beautiful.
Ballroom is there. Cinema Paradiso is there, which was a film that was really important to me because that was one of the first films that I really, really connected to as a young person, admiring, because I'd never seen a movie like that. These are international films. I know a lot of people, if you want to go watch whatever the latest movie is, that's great. That's enjoyable and it's entertainment. But some of these films, they change who you are.
Yeah.
And they stay with you.
Yeah.
Eraserhead did that to me. Oh. I just remember always seeing the classic, like the cover for that movie, the guy with the afro.
Mm-hmm.
And he was always in the horror section, but I'd never rented it ever. And then I saw it finally on like Netflix or something, and the whole time I was just like, what is this? It was just so different from anything I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it was
that's very different.
so film noir, or I don't know what the heck
Mm-hmm.
to call it, but it was very abstract, and it just really, really like excited me and made me want. It like made so many more ideas in my head just explode, and I for some reason I just would love to make a movie the old way, the way that David Lynch did.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't know. It's just, it feels more
you must.
authentic or something.
You must do it, except,
I must.
you must do it at least once, make an emulsion film. But just remember, every time you hit the red button on your camera, it's a really amazing director from Toronto. We were making a film together, and he told me, he's like, just remember when you're hitting that red button, gold coins are pouring out.
Yeah.
Gold coins are pouring out. And then when you shoot,
Film is
after,
expensive.
Good mantra.
if you shoot digital, shoot like you're shooting emulsion. Filmmakers, you don't need to hold the roll and keep rolling. Like, learn to shoot like an emulsion filmmaker, and you will have a more efficient set, a better tighter budget, like everything. If you can take those, because what I first noticed too, especially working in a film school, was at one point was we had to teach the students, because it doesn't matter when you're in post, you want to be paying people to go through hours and hours and hours. Like,
Of course, yeah.
teaching people to shoot in camera, to like shoot it, like edit in camera, shoot in camera, like think in camera as much as you can, and then edit, and then you can make your films look more expensive too, because you can do more stuff and shoot more efficiently and not have to wade through a whole bunch of footage that you're not going to need later. And
Right.
go and make that movie, and even if it's a 2-minute short, and
That's kind of where you have to start.
Yeah.
Have you ever made a movie?
yeah, I've made a few.
Tell us about that.
I do have to go and be gaffer soon. I don't know
Yeah,
what
I was
time it
gonna
is,
say,
but yeah, I
we
love
have to go here
I
pretty
love
quick.
I love talking about movies and stuff. But I definitely love making them, and it doesn't have to be a big movie. It can be a little movie. There's a little promo that I shot with my little one. She made all the sets, and she played the music for it and everything. So for the 70th for the Paramount. So that screening. So I've done little shows. I've done corporates. I've done music videos. I've worked on some features. I actually shot locally. I got to work as a camera trainee on Flicka 2, it was called.
Oh, wow.
Which was shot a number of years ago now, and that was a really fun experience. I slayed it in front of a snake that still had its fangs. They'd taken the venom out, but the trainer was like, but it can still bite. And it was just, the slate you were the snake, the slate had to do this. And I still remember my hand like shaking, like, soft sticks.
Wow.
When I called that role. But yeah, I have worked in movies. I worked in front of the camera, behind the camera, production teams. Some of the best times of my life were doing that. Some of the hardest.
Yeah.
Making movies is tough,
Yeah, we could, yeah.
but it's also very rewarding. And then eventually there can be a time to walk away from it. And what's left for me now is keeping the places that we can screen these films alive, because we're meant to watch these films together. We're meant to watch them in a crowd. They were designed for that, for a 74-foot screen. And so that's where
back to that.
let's get back to that. And that's where I put my focus now. But yeah, every once in a while I get a bug to shoot a little movie or whatever. And usually this is where we use it to help keep promoting the Paramount and the next generation of film lovers.
Amazing.
That hopefully come to value this like we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
I'm such a blabbermouth, but I love this stuff so much.
I mean, that's the thing. I could have kept going with this conversation forever. We got more guests lined up, and you got things to do.
And they have wonderful things to share. The people I meet in this organization, they're awesome.
Yeah.
So enjoy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Your next encounter, because I always do. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Take care.
Terry.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And up next, we have, is this Colleen?
Terry Hadwin.
Oh my gosh, am I getting names mixed up?
No. Well, I mean, I don't know if you just. I don't know if you just. I can't tell if you got the name mixed up or you just misidentified her.
I think I called her Terry.
But she's not Colleen either.
Oh my gosh.
She might have been.
She's Colette.
Colette?
No, Colette. We know Colette, the one we were just talking to.
Oh, isn't that Terry Lynn?
See, it could be.
Oh,
Exactly.
wait, so there's two Terrys.
There are two Terrys. This town is big enough for two Terrys. Who knew it?
Wow.
I'm a Terry Lynn too, but
you really?
yeah, I am. But when I was very small, I was very adamant that I was not a Terry Lynn.
Okay.
Yes,
I
and
thought you were going to say you fell and like broke the Terry Lynn and had to be surgically removed.
No. I found that it just wasn't for me. It didn't fit right, and I had a classroom where there was two Terrys, and the other girl was just a Terry, and my teacher tried to call me
Wow.
Terry Lynn, and I was like, heck no.
I didn't realize how common that name was.
Yeah, Terry
Cute.
Lynn.
You sued it. I think you
thank
should
you.
keep that name.
I don't know if it's me. I guess it is me in
Well,
some
I mean, you can,
sense, but
whatever. Call yourself Bob.
yeah, right.
We'll
yeah.
like you either way.
I think we should normalize people changing their names to whatever they want them to be. Anyway, how are you doing, Terry?
Amazing. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great.
We were just talking about the idea of film as a sort of collective experience. Do you have thoughts you want to share on that?
As a collective experience, you mean enjoying it in a group?
Yeah, basically the idea of like going out and enjoying a film together with a bunch of people in the cinema rather than, say, watching it on a DVD or streaming at home by yourself.
I enjoy both, really. I mean, I love being able to snuggle up on my sofa with my cozy blankets and my pajamas and my dog. Can't bring your dog to the theater. I mean, there's that whole element, right? I mean, or when you're wanting to maybe have a glass of wine and that type of thing. And don't get me wrong, you can have a glass of wine before and after with your friends. But I like both elements. I really, really do. And I like having the choice between the two. I like being able to, make an experience out of it. It's a date night with my husband when we go out. Whereas, when we're watching a movie back at home, it's not necessarily date night. It's sofa time. Just downtime. But yeah, I think that enjoying a movie, especially comedy. I love watching comedy with other folks because hearing their laughter at elements that you didn't necessarily think were funny.
Right.
And I'm always I'm a snorter when I laugh. And
Make her laugh.
and so I think that almost gets the rest of the crowd going because they're laughing at me now.
I do know from theater experience that like having a very loud laugher in the audience helps propel the rest of the audience, almost like gives them permission to be loud.
Right.
Kind of like when someone is the first to clap.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Well, and maybe you didn't realize that there was a joke there, and then
Yeah.
you were like, "Oh, yeah, that was funny."
or conversely, I often find myself. I was at the Minecraft movie, I guess, last week with my kid. There were a couple of jokes where I think they were geared for an audience old enough that I was the only one who laughed out loud at
Right.
them. There was a comment about Sizzler. I think I'm the only one in the theater got. But then again, speaking to that collective experience, there were lines and stuff. I'm assuming they must have been from the trailers that the crowd was shouting out along with the movie.
Amazing.
Which you see that in stuff like Rocky Horror Picture
Right,
Show,
right, where
for example.
yes,
Those
where everybody
sorts
gets
of
engaged. Yes.
Screenings are built around that. And I was really surprised to see this happening in a film that it was the second day it was out when we had gone to see it, but already, chicken jockey, people were yelling out.
Okay.
I'm Steve, people were yelling out.
That's
Flint
amazing.
and Steel, people were yelling out. And it's, again, I wasn't doing that, but it's that reminder of that social collective experience.
Did
what
they
it's
make
like.
a huge mess in the theater? Because that's what's
They
circulating.
didn't, and I have heard that too. So yeah,
Why?
Why?
Why did they do that?
For Rocky Mountain, or
No.
not Rocky
no,
Mountain,
Rocky Horror Picture
Rocky
Show. They
Hor-
do throw things.
Yes,
and stuff,
exactly.
It
but-
did
And-
remind me of that, but this seems more destructive and
Yeah,
evil.
there's been people like when they're doing the chicken jockey shouts, throwing popcorn and drinks and
okay.
just.
Who
Jiminy.
started that? How did
I don't
that-
know. I honestly, I'll blame Donald Trump.
Hooligan YouTube youth, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. It's. I guess it's okay to be loud to an extent in a movie theater. Although that does kind of you have to start asking like, is there a certain point where you're making it difficult for other people to enjoy the movie too?
Totally. Yes. Yeah,
But then
I
there's
hear you.
another step further where you're actively making the lives of the people who are just working there and doing their best. You're making their lives so much harder. Don't be a jerk.
and
right?
trash the theater. Yeah, exactly.
All
Make
you,
the
all you
seats all
youngins
sticky.
watching the stream right now, because I know you must be. Don't do that.
Or at least tip them really well on the
Just
way.
tip them.
Yeah, give
Just
them
normalize
give them
tipping the theater employees.
exactly. Slip them a 20 or something.
exactly.
Yeah. I can remember taking my friends' little ones to see Frozen, and they had never seen a 3D movie before.
wow.
You should have seen the reaction on their face. Like at the very beginning, they had a Mickey Mouse short where he came through the screen. And the little stood up. She turned to the rest of like the theater to like engage with them. She's like, "Did you guys see that?" It was fantastic. And she like thought it was a group activity. Like she was just like, "Wow, man, my mind is blown. How are you guys feeling about this?" It was great. Yeah, yeah, it was cute. Yeah, yeah. And then there was the part where Elsa's sister, whatever her name is, gets Aunt. Thank you. I knew you would know.
Might have seen them a few
When you
times.
look at Todd, you're like, he is a hardcore Frozen fan.
Right?
Wow.
My child was never that big into Frozen, actually.
No?
So,
Okay.
but I probably enjoyed it more than she did. It
It was a great movie.
was a good movie, yeah. Great songs, too.
And I liked how it was about, like a female companionship and family and all that. And anyways, there's the scene, I hope I'm not doing any spoilers for all of y'all who haven't seen Frozen, but there's...
Old enough that
I hope so. Anyways, at this point, I don't feel like I'm ruining anybody's day, but there's the part where Anna gets frozen, and the little was just like, she was gobsmacked. She didn't shoot like audibly, and it's like a quiet part of the movie. She's like, she's frozen. The whole crowd just started cracking up laughing. Not a funny part in the movie, but they just got involved in the moment.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah. So having
It's
those
endearing.
exactly those group experiences, would you have that back at home? No, you wouldn't. So yeah, you got to get out to theater. You absolutely do. Yeah.
Thoughts on the Paramount Theatre? 70 years of this building being around and being a showcase for film.
I love everything about the Paramount Theatre. Absolutely everything. I work across the street, so I see it every single day. And I think of how fabulous it is and how lucky we are to still have this. I was born in Kelowna, and they had a super unique, great theater downtown. I remember going to see films there when I was in grade school. And it's been made into a brew pub. And I mean, like, how many brew pubs do we need? Like, sure, we need our staple brew pubs, but we need at least one
I agree,
theater.
And it was an old theater?
Yeah, it was a beautiful old theater. Yeah, and they kept the great marquee sign outside, but it's not the same. And I just feel like we are just so lucky to have something like this here. It's not like they're a dime a dozen. I mean, not every community has these, and we should be celebrating what we have here for sure.
I was pretty, well, I don't know if I was like super emotional, but I was a little sad when the Odeon shut down. My grandfather's Lou, so he's a projectionist. He was a projectionist at this theater, but he also at the Odeon. So I have memories here and there.
Right.
But yeah, I was like, oh, it was just a little. Actually, yeah, is it It was one block over, right?
Yeah, across the street and just a smidge over,
the
I
nice
think.
new
Yeah.
restaurant is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's before my time.
No, I'm younger than you.
No, it's before my time in Kamloops.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry about that. Didn't mean to make that mistake, of course. Yeah, no, I was alive, I'm sure. I just wasn't here and aware of it.
True, 'cause you grew up in Williams Lake.
I did grow up in Williams Lake. Yeah.
Is there an old theater there?
So the theater that was the primary theater when I was growing up is not a movie theater anymore. It was converted into, I don't know if it's still running as this, but it was converted into like a live theater space.
Okay. Yeah.
Then there's the Paradise Theater, which was at one point 2 cinemas, and that was the upgrade from the Alston, which was the 1 cinema.
Huh.
And I think the Paradise is now 4 cinemas. But it is still sort of an independent theater. It's not like a Cineplex sort of thing where it's a big chain. It's a smaller kind of independently owned
Like this.
thing. Yeah.
I'm really glad that they didn't. Things aren't so new here. I hope we keep it as original as we can.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah.
I would love to see some updated seats personally.
I don't know. I'm a sucker for old, crummy stuff. I guess.
I mean, like
Nostalgia.
It's got the nostalgia thing. It's just it can be, no disrespect to the Paramount because I do love the Paramount. It can be tough to sit in for a whole movie
You have a
sometimes.
numb bum right now?
Not right now, but ask me again in 20 minutes.
Remind me to ask you again in 20 minutes.
I will not do that.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, I love nostalgia for sure, right? And having the vintage feel is fantastic. And selfishly, I am able to sell nostalgia easier for filming locations and stuff like that. But it would be nice if maybe one out of the 2 theaters had the spiffier, nicer seating, and then the other one could stay in its more vintage era type of thing. Yeah, something along those lines. But I mean, like, I would love maybe a little bit more investment into the theater to update things just a smidge for them, just to make things just a little bit easier. I mean, take, for example, this amazing stage that New Gold sponsored. I mean, like, that is a big addition to this space so that there can be live performances up there. So, just anytime.
Or even just a place for someone to stand to introduce the screening, right?
Absolutely. All of those types of things. So, just people be like New Gold and sponsor and support our local theater and do amazing things. I know that there's been so many groups along the way. There was, I remember there was groups that came in here that to clean every single seat during COVID and stuff like that. Like, and they did it out of the kindness of their hearts. Like, they were just, like, there's just so many people that believe in the theater and give to the theater. So I just want to encourage more of that.
Personal memories and reasons to love it here.
Totally, yeah. When the Comfy Seat campaign came out, I tried to convince my husband that we needed to buy a seat. I was like, I want to buy a seat and put our names on it. And he's like, Terry, we can't afford that. And I was like, no, you are so right. But how bougie would that be? I mean, I think it's like $500 to have your name on. Like, I mean,
I've thought about buying a seat too.
I feel like it's affordable. I mean,
it's
like, to have like my name all over it.
It's not a great investment. You're not going to get any ROI on it.
No,
but like.
But it's bougie.
It is bougie, exactly.
Hey, you're in my seat.
Totally.
Like, where's your name?
Right here.
Right
Actually,
there.
there under your breath.
Right there. Exactly. So get out.
I literally paid for that.
Yeah. I think maybe for Christmas, maybe that's what I'll ask for my Christmas present is a bougie seat.
Nice. I'm also like I'm a huge fan of, and if I had more time, I would probably try to join them. But the Kamloops Film Society's work in either bringing in sort of newer, more under the radar films, or for me especially, bringing in older films and giving them a chance to live in a theater again. Mm-hmm. I have been so lucky to see so many of films that were came out when I was a kid. So I'm a big horror guy.
Right.
And so, like, I've seen, stuff like growing up, I would have watched, like, The Thing and...
well, we watched... What was that?
Friday the 13th, Part 1.
And
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser, yeah.
That have all, they've screened here earlier this year, I guess, 2001. My favorite movie of all time. First time I've ever been in a position to see it in a theater.
Nice. Hellraiser.
Amazing. Hellraiser. No, 2001.
Oh, okay.
Hellraiser is another, but it's a great film, but not my favorite of all
time. Okay.
Yeah, it was so cool for me to see something that I would never have a chance to see in theater because it was just before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
We get it. You're young.
Well, not that young. I actually think it was maybe
you were one or
late
two.
80s. I don't know when.
It's. I want to say 87, something like that.
Yeah, I was crapping myself then. So
you probably crapped yourself at Hellraiser too.
now we have to
I think we can say crap.
Yeah, it was only 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think
there wasn't a question there, but
that's okay. I think that Drunk in a Graveyard does a great job
Oh, they're so
with
good,
that,
yeah.
like curating films that they're just like, you know what, people need to be exposed to this. And I think that they garner it probably in a lot of conversations that they have, like when people are like, oh, I haven't seen that, and they're probably like, what do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
How can we change that? And Sam Terrio is amazing at that, as well as just being like, yeah, people are gonna love this. I wanted to come here so badly when they had Love Actually playing again, because it is my all-time favorite Christmas movie.
Yeah.
There's never been a Christmas that it's been out for that I haven't watched it. And I wanted to see it in theater because I've never seen it in theater. And I mean, yeah, I was just I was away. I think I was but it's and so I would agree with you. Like, it's fantastic when they bring in films that we all need to be exposed to, whether that be new or old.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the Paramount Film Society? Anything like that? I see we have a next guest lined up. So.
Yeah, I mean, happy birthday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's make it to 75 and then 100 and all those beautiful milestones. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. As
Awesome.
always.
All right, there you go.
Brilliant.
So
Thank
I
you.
didn't get her name wrong.
No, you didn't.
There's two Terrys.
There's two Terrys. There might even be a third Terry somewhere in Kamloops.
The main character in Hellraiser, her name was Terry. I guess Pinhead was the main character. Oh.
Was it Terry? I don't.
It was, yeah.
All right.
Terry with an I or Y?
So.
Oh, do we have someone else coming in?
I think she's offering us popcorn. Okay, well, let's have some popcorn. Why not?
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Thank you.
And then we have Colleen.
It's the
This is the Colleen that you tried to introduce last time.
yeah. And this is our historian. Yeah. Is that right? That's right. Very cool.
I'll just grab a seat right there. And I will hand you a microphone if you don't mind.
Not at all.
All right.
Hi.
And then just try to keep this close to your mouth.
Yeah.
Sort of up in this area.
I just wanted to say hi to Kelsey.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh, hi. So my grandpa is Lou Tessier.
I know.
Oh.
I know.
Have I met you before? When was I just
We
didn't
met, I
remember?
think, during very quickly.
Oh, just okay.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you
know
so much
that.
for doing all this research on the Paramount.
You're welcome.
How long did it take to gather all this?
The final project was probably about 2 years. It was 2
Wow.
years. Yeah, it was in 2023 that Radhika, who was the manager here at the time, not the manager, but a manager, asked, I was ushering, and she said, I think this place is got near to an anniversary, and I guess looking at my vintage, she thought I might know something about that. So I said, well, I know where to find that out. So I went down to the archives where I've done some other work there and found that out, but I also found a big file that had all the old theaters and a whole bunch of stuff and a bit of gossip and etc. And so intrigued, and so I thought, I wonder when movies first started in Kamloops, because I went to the Capitol Theatre and to this one. So that started me. So when did movies first start in Kamloops? And I found out that it was in 1908, and I got busy. And it gets better. The story gets better, because a bunch of guys got together in a warehouse, and they had this crank projector. Where you crank it, makes a terrible noise, but it showed 18-minute silent films.
Okay.
And so you can just imagine they've got this projector with nitrate film running through it against a hot lamp. They're sitting on wooden benches, undoubtedly smoking and drinking beer.
A little bit flammable.
And you just wonder. So then so I was working away on this, and one of the really tricky parts of putting the story together was the various film companies, the companies that actually owned the theaters and hired the staff, all had their particular names for their theaters. And so they came into Kamloops, and over from 1912 till about 1957, they built and bought different buildings, and sometimes the same building would be named something else. So, for instance, they built the Empress Theatre on Seymour Street, and eventually somebody else bought it. It became the Capitol Theatre, and so on. So trying to put together all of this I had a friend and we sat down and tried to make a chart, because it was really difficult. And there was the Empire Theatre and the Empress Theatre and so on and so forth. So on it went. And then one day my sister said to me, I used to get apples from an apple orchard out in Rayleigh, and that guy was the projectionist in Kamloops. And I think Olga Palmer knows him very well. So she called Olga, and Olga, she found. So that was your grandfather, Lou Tessier. And so I started meeting with them to kind of find out a bit more about the Paramount, and then found out that he had a wealth of information of how projectionists had to put together films and how they all this splicing and carrying on that went on. So I've actually done two projects. One is the Tessier career, demonstrating the evolution of projection techniques over time, which didn't evolve very much over time until about the late 70s.
Digital.
Yeah. Well, the digital is where we are now. Yeah. But and then I met John Bishop through Lou, and he used to be the manager here, and he was the manager when they twinned this place from 1,000-seat theater into 2 theaters. Okay. When guess what? When 1950s, when TV came in, the interest in movies went down a bit. The audiences went down, and then it surged again. I think people found that, because at the early TV, you probably won't remember, but you only got it at 6 o'clock at night. You got the news and maybe one thing else, and it was one channels, and it wasn't on all day, and it didn't talk to you all day long like they do now.
It would have been a novelty at first, like this is really cool, but then like after a couple of months, it's like, well,
it was, we used to get the news when you came to the Capitol, for example. During the war, we got the news. We'd get about 15 minutes of news, world news, and then we'd get a cartoon, and then we'd get the main movie, and so it was like having that same newsreel in your home. Yeah, but it was small, and it didn't have a movie with it, and there still weren't movies on TV. So. And there's nothing like the big screen. I mean, I think everybody's learned, and certainly the revival of the Paramount has really demonstrated that people like to come out and kind of experience the movie together. And even though you're with strangers, you kind of have a general audience response. And I know in the operas now that we've got here as well, people clap with the people in New York. And I told them, I said, clap, because you're clapping all around the world. Everybody's clapping at the same time. We're all watching it live on TV. So if you're moved to clap or cry or call out bravo, do it. That's fine. Mm-hmm. We're there.
Yeah.
Because it's live. We're there at the time. So it's good.
I had no idea that they played the news before the movie was
yeah.
Yeah, newsreels.
Mm-hmm. Saturday afternoon matinees were very popular at the Capitol, and the guys used to sit up in the balcony and throw bubble gum into our hair to get our attention.
Did it work?
Oh, yeah.
But not good attention.
No. We thought it was not at all interesting.
No. What was the first movie that you saw in a theater?
I can't remember. It would have been at the Capitol Theatre. It would have been, I don't know, because I was a teenager. Well, younger even. We went. I remember Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and those kinds of things. Yeah.
But by that time, it was an old movie.
Well, not so old. That was in the 50s. So, yeah. Or 40s, I guess. I was born in 38, so.
Were you?
Yeah.
Gosh, you look good.
Yep, same age as your grandpa.
I thought you said same age as Todd.
No, not quite yet.
No.
You mentioned digging up some gossip. Is there anything you can legally share?
Well, the Capitol Theatre, the Empress Theatre, when they first had a big nude draped over the facades were very fancy, and they were very fancy theaters. Lots of draperies and a great big concession, a huge lobby, and lots of glitter and whatever. And if you see the movie The Empire of Light, it's a movie theater that's exactly like most of those theaters were inside. And it's the dynamics between the staff. It's quite fun to watch, actually. But yeah, there was a new. Well, first of all, when movies came to Kamloops at all, even in 1908, everybody was pretty skeptical about what that was going to do to morality. And then,
Now look at the world.
Yeah, look at the world.
Yeah, we kind of lost the meaning of it, haven't we? So then the Empress was built with this big nude draped over the entranceway. You'll see it if you go down to the exhibition at the. And it's out on the poster out there too. You can see it, but not quite as well as you can at the museum. Yeah, it's on the poster. It's called Early Days of Movies in Kamloops or something like that. I can't remember after years of working on them. Anyway, that was very controversial. And then when talkies came and they had talking movies, that was controversial too.
Really?
But the early movies, they were silent. So we had a man named Mr. Grenier here who had worked for Barnum and Bailey, and he got involved with this little pansy theater down in West Victoria, and he played the piano and he played music appropriate to what was going on the screen.
Kind of like we know a lady named Daniela O'Fee.
That's right.
that.
She did that here.
Yeah.
And if you go to the Orpheum Theatre in Vancouver, they still have an organ that comes up from the floor. Ooh. And there's the same in Sydney, Australia. There's one too. Comes up from the floor because the piano player would play before the theatre, and then he'd go down and play mood music for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an experience.
So then color didn't come in till quite late. And it was also they wondered what that was going to now do to,
60s?
Yeah, late 50s, I think. Early 60s, they experimented with it for a bit. Yeah.
Do you happen to know what kind of controversy there was around the introduction of sound? Like what people thought might happen?
Well, it's changed, right?
I guess.
And I think it was just like you could kind of, because most of the movies were kind of vaudeville acts, and they added, so it was only 18 minutes of film, so they had vaudeville, and the fellow from Barnum and Bailey that managed it and kind of ran the place down there, he brought in all kinds of acts and local entertainment and so on as well. So you get a 2-hour program, but it wasn't always movies.
Right.
It was just movies. And then they built an opera house here in 1887, and they started showing movies later on too. Yeah. In after the 1908 one came in, started having movies.
Wow.
Yeah.
So historically, was there another theater that closed that led to the Paramount opening? Was the Paramount opening sort of competition? What's the starting point for the Paramount in history, if you recall?
Well, they started talking about it. In fact, famous players said that they would build a theater that was snazzy and up to date and so on in 1944, I think it was 44 or 48. I'm not exactly sure. And it was to be built on the other side of the avenue here where the art gallery is now. And in fact, my father had a gas station and auto body shop and a Greyhound bus depot there for many years before the 50s. Sold it to Sid Smith, and then Sid Smith wanted to expand, and so they were going to be here, and the Paramount was to go over there. So they made it. So then Sid Smith wanted more space, so he made a deal with them, and they exchanged sites. The Paramount was delighted because it would have some more parking space and so on this side. But it meant it had to be redesigned, and one of the construction companies was fired.
Oh my!
And it went on and on and on and on until it finally was opened in 1955. But they'd been working on it for a long time. Now, there was the Skyway Drive-In, there was the Sundown Drive-In, there was the North Hills Theatre, movie theater, as well as the Skyway. It was right beside the Skyway, actually. There were lots of movie theaters around. But when they began to build these theaters over on this shore, the typical thing happened that, people found it twice as far to go to the North Shore as it is to come to the South Shore. And so there was competition. So I think also technology had changed. So this theater was promoted to be a big downtown theater. The others were getting old. They'd been built in the 30s. So they were really inexpensive to run. So I think that's why. And this one was built as a 1,000-seat theater
Right.
originally, $7.99 I think it was, and then in 1979 they twinned it because again the decreasing people wanted more variety of movies, and then the Odeon built across the street and down a block.
Yeah. I have lots of memories with the Odeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they decided to close that one and go up the hill. So, yeah.
So, what was the first movie theater that was built in Kamloops?
It was called
wasn't
this. Oh no! Oh no! Y'all go out and look at the program out there. There's
I better do my homework.
You
I
better
should've
do your
done it
homework.
before I
You
got
better
here.
go and read them all because it's all about your your
Yeah.
granddad lived through. No, there were many wonderful theaters on the main street and on
Interesting.
Seymour Street. Yep, and there are plaques everywhere around the city. You'll see them. There are
Right.
plaques telling you a little bit about them. The Rex now is the Rex again. It was the Rex Theater. Then it was first of all the Elks Auditorium. And then it was the Rex, and then it was the Empire 2, and then it was back to the Rex again. Like, I could never figure out why they called that the Rex. I thought, used to be the Elks Auditorium. We used to have the Festival for the Performing Arts in there, and I can remember playing.
Maybe dinosaur-related.
I
Tyrannosaurus.
Be careful.
Yeah.
I played in it.
Sorry.
Oh.
Wasn't implying that it was, you get it.
Yeah.
Well, what's the most interesting thing you learned doing all this research?
Oh, there was no one thing. It was all absolutely fascinating. Doing that kind of work is like putting together a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with all the name changes and different owners for
Excuse me.
the same building.
Yeah.
It's hard to sometimes connect the dots.
Yep. It's it was fascinating to see how one of the things I guess is the kind of how things circle. And in 1897, the city decided they really need to have some kind of a theater, and they needed sports facilities. So they got together with the Agricultural Association, had an exhibition, and used the money to build musical. I love this. The musical and athletic, not the sports and music. The Musical and Athletic Association building. And it housed theater as well as all kinds of sports. It had a reading room. They added sports to it. It had a bowling alley. And the Metropolitan Opera from New York decided they'd come. Boris Johnson was here preparing for Frankenstein. He did all his practicing here. Pauline Johnson read poetry. There's some really interesting. Boris Karloff, I think it was. And
Wow.
not Boris Johnson, Boris Karloff. Yeah, it's amazing
Wait,
the
Boris-
history of that.
He was
He was Frankenstein. He was Frankenstein for
Yeah.
years after that. And then when the Metropolitan Opera was on tour, they decided to come here. So they took the sign down, turned it over, painted the opera house, and put it up. And then it was such a success, the Boston Opera came.
Wow.
So it's incredible. But really interesting is it burned down in 1932. The firemen were all at a dance with the nurses, so they arrived in their tuxedos to put out the fire.
That would have been a great photo opportunity.
Probably are some photos somewhere, but who knows? Yeah.
Is this this sort of digging through history? Is that something you've done before, or was this sort of your first time at it?
Well, I started. I joined the Communities in Bloom committee, and we decided we'd fix up the entrance to the Red Bridge on Lawrence Street. It used to be just a weed patch for the bicentennial of Kamloops. And
That would be an interesting.
And then
thing to
I
learn about is
thought-
the Red Bridge.
so then I thought, what about this bridge? So I did the history of it, and it's on the kiosks down there. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, so
All good.
same. Yeah.
I need a drink.
Oh. Where's your vodka, Todd? You
I don't. I
thanks.
forgot it.
forgot your vodka.
I did.
Take it off.
Well, we're actually.
So I've
almost
done all
done.
this.
We
Yeah.
are nearing being done. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we're going to grab Colette quickly before we wrap.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk
so
to Colette.
So I've done the Red Bridge, and I did all the bridges of Kamloops. And so when the Red Bridge burned down, I was really a target for getting all the information they could.
Right.
Yeah. And I've done a couple of presentations on that.
Would you be interested in talking to us another time about
Sure.
that?
Oh, sure.
I think that would be really interesting to learn about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was so sad when the bridge burnt down. I'm really
sick.
attached to old things. I don't know why.
I was sick,
But,
and it's really
why you hang
changed
out
my
with me.
lifestyle. Yeah, just go down and read the kiosk first. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that you'll know. Yeah, it's a fascinating. That was the third Red Bridge.
What?
Yeah.
Same spot?
Yep.
No way. Oh yeah, we'll definitely have to have another episode with Colleen here.
There we go.
First one was built for First one was built for about 9,000. I think it was 9,000. Those details are gone. 3 months. They decided in August. Got the tenders in September. Built it from October to December. This
Wow.
new one might take 4 years or never.
I think the second option sounds realistic too.
The other thing we asked about, what did I learn, is what goes around comes around. So now we've got this build Kamloops where they've combined the arts and
Yep.
sports
Yep.
again. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about when you were talking about the dance. And
Yeah, it's just really, really great. And as I said to Mark Middleton at the opening of the museum, if a population of 500 can build a musical and athletic association and opera house, I think we could do a pack.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Like, enough already.
Yeah.
Right.
So all of your hard work in digging up the history of the Paramount is currently at the museum.
Some of it's, it's there.
Yeah.
And her grandpa
Yep.
found this old projector. Her dad has restored
Yes.
it.
And
And it's
also there's-
amazing.
Those are old speakers right there that
Yeah.
came from my
From the
house.
drive-through.
Oh,
Drive
those
in.
should go to
Drive in,
them.
drive-through,
Those
drive in.
should go down.
Yeah, actually, I hope it's not too late. Maybe I
No.
have 3 of them.
Oh, that would be great.
I wonder if we could just put that in the museum.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool.
Because people don't know what that is, you see.
No.
But,
No,
Yeah,
exactly.
but it does tell the story of the drivers and how you hung those on your door, and then
Yeah.
they admonished you not to drive off with it. Your grandpa used to say,
Oh, really?
please be sure to put your speakers
Oh yeah.
back.
I'm sure it's happened a time or two.
It did. My dad drove off with one. Yeah.
Oh, funny.
All right. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah.
taking
Thank you
the
so
time to chat with us today.
But there was when I started doing this research, like finding out about the Paramount, I had no idea it would evolve to this.
Oh, right, this
And
sort
to
of big
this kind of celebration and the museum.
and-
And, we had so much that, and your grandpa has stuff, and your dad, and I thought, I wonder if the museum would be interested in this. So we had a meeting with them, and they said yes, and here we are.
Very,
it's
very
amazing.
cool.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
about a year-ish. We've been brainstorming just at
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
Been thinking
So you
about
tell
this
your
day
dad
for
we're
a
thinking
while.
about him.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
I'm really sorry he missed the opening, but
Oh yeah, no, I think so. The museum, the anniversary for the Paramount will be at the museum for a while,
Until September, I believe. Yeah.
September 27th.
September 27th.
Yeah,
So
just go
go to the
down there.
museum.
There's time to go. Plenty of time.
Hurry up, or not. You can
You
take
should
time.
go and that interview Matt, see what he thinks.
Well, thank you so much, Colleen.
You're welcome.
We-
Sorry,
oh,
my voice
who's
gave out
here?
there.
It's a puppy dog.
What?
Todd, I'm distracted.
Oh yeah.
Why is there a dog here? Woof woof. Hi. There's a dog here.
Have you got 5 minutes, or do we have 3 minutes? Just to say goodbye. We could end it here, but we're gonna run through very quickly with Colette here because we got to get out of the theater because probably stuff's about to happen because there's stuff happening everywhere.
Yes, we have a movie starting at 3 o'clock.
Oh my God. Okay, so thank you for letting us get in here and stream and do all this fun stuff. You got
Yeah.
any final things you want to, and for the popcorn and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, it's just been such a incredibly exciting weekend, from everything from the museum exhibition opening on Friday to our open house today. We have some 1955 classic films playing over the weekend. We showed Rebel Without a Cause last night, and Lady and the Tramp is starting here in about 20 minutes. So yeah, just lots of stuff. It's been great to see everyone come out and share their personal stories.
Dog here.
No, so the dog is actually the Kamloops Film Society mascot Gaffer.
Oh, right, because he used to be, or is he still on the
He's
little-
still, yeah, he was on our logo. You see him, we have a little paper mache thing of him. Gaffer, do you want to stick your head in here?
Hey, Gaffer.
Come on
Come
out.
here to be on camera. Are you
So
okay?
this is Gaffer.
Hi. Paw. Do you shake a paw?
Do we
Oh,
high five a
good
paw?
boy.
Nice.
Oh, wow. He's
Right?
a good dog.
I know. Very obedient. Lots of tricks.
Yep.
Yeah, what's your trick?
Whoa. That's a good jump. Oh,
Oh, there.
Oh, cute.
thumb wiggles.
Must
Yeah.
be nice and cool in there, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a cute dog. See, I always get distracted by dogs.
I
like you
know.
say.
All right.
Well, you
So-
better come out and get some cake before it's
All right.
gone.
Yes, we should do that. Thank you again for helping us get this set up and joining us. And we need to let the theater get ready for Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah, and we hope
So-
that lots of people will come down to the Paramount and
Yeah.
help us move on to the next 70 years.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you again.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Todd.
Bye.
See ya.
Someone needs to go and hit
Grandma.
stop
You're
recording.
right there. Grandma's usually watching. Oh, Grandma Bobby. Hi, Grandma Bobby. I love you. You gotta say hi to your grandma more often.
Like, my grandma's dead.
So your grandma actually was in the back watching, but
was,
just
I know.
from that side of the screen.